Hi everyone, welcome to Viewers Mistakes number 18. All my viewers have sent these clips in knowing that they made mistakes. This takes a massive amount of courage, so please don't be too tough on anyone. Loads of learning can take place with this format, and it's one of my favourite ones. If you capture any of your own mistakes, please do send them in. This clip's all about how my viewer deals with the overtake of the cyclist that's up ahead, and there's also a surprise involvement from one of the vehicles travelling behind. Let's watch the clip in full first, and then I'll start the deep dive with the analysis shortly.
Going on.
I think you'll agree, that was quite an unusual clip. There's simply not enough room to start an overtake at this particular point. Where I've paused the clip is a perfect position for my viewer to stay, out near the centre line and 2 or 3 car lengths behind the cyclist. The junction up on the right is also another factor which should be saying, don't go past. My viewer thinks about it and then changes their mind. At this point I can totally understand why my viewer tries the overtake again. The cyclist on the left hand side has stopped pedalling and they've shown no signs that they're ever going to turn right. In about another car length the view to the right hand side of the junction will open up, and there's no oncoming vehicles. I'm sure many people in the comments section would do exactly the same, but maybe the main point that we can all learn from this clip is to leave it a little later until we're sure the cyclist isn't turning. My viewer doesn't overtake quickly though and is able to change their mind quite soon. The cyclist riding is absolutely awful. Headphones on, no rear observation and a signal and a movement all at once. Combine this with a horrendous position to turn right and you've got one big danger. They get a D, but don't forget it's down to us motorists to look after idiots like this. And my viewer did exactly that. A little bit rash with the overtake and a little bit early, but they get a C. The driver of the Ford behind is at least as likely as the cyclist to be causing a collision. I know some people may argue that they could have thought that my viewer was turning right, but that's ridiculous. They get a D.
Okay. Going on.
For today's integration we're going to look at a Porsche Boxster that's had a little bit more than a light bump. Yep, that's right, this car vertical report shows that this Porsche is literally in 2 pieces. Now you're probably thinking this car must be scrap, and that was my initial thought when I first saw this report as well. But there's a little bit more to it. Checking your car out through Car Vertical is an important first step in my opinion to make sure you don't buy a lemon. These reports that I look at are quite extreme, and this one is the top of the tree. The second group of pictures clearly show that this Porsche is now put back together. It's in one main piece. But that's not the end of this tale. These Car Vertical reports don't just show pictures, they show loads of important information that you might need. And in the timeline on this report we can see that this vehicle has been exported to Italy and it's passed an MOT over there, which means it's back on the road. Remember, to make sure you don't buy a lemon, check your car out through Car Vertical first. Use the code Ashley or the links in the description and you can save yourself 20%. Thanks Car Vertical.
My viewer exits the petrol station and emerges onto a 30 mph limit. Nice job letting a pedestrian across, but that's about it for the rest of the clip. This is Low Moor Road just north of Nottingham, and like I've just said, it's a 30 mph limit, but have a little look at the speed that my viewer goes at. That's 44 mph GPS, so the speedo's obviously showing a lot more than that. They slow down and deal with a mini roundabout comfortably and safely, but quite soon after, they're back on that accelerator again. That's way too quick with all the queuing cars on the opposite side. Anyone could just walk out. And you need to factor in the weather. But my viewer's now following the vehicle that we have the issue with later on in the clip. The speed limit's now changed to 40, but with the traffic ahead, we can't go any quicker. Think about what I just said about the weather, and also my viewer's following distance. Also be conscious of what we can actually see in front of this Volkswagen that's in front of my viewer. And this is one of the main reasons why tailgating is a big problem. You're really reactive. We've now got some roadworks and some temporary speed limits. It's back down to 30 again, and my viewer's doing 30, but they're not happy. They want to go quicker. Closing space down under braking is really dangerous, and for me this is happening purely because of the impatience of my viewer. For me, the driver of the Volkswagen in front seems to be doing a decent job. It also did cross my mind why there's no audio on this footage. It could very well be a preference that my viewer just doesn't record the audio, or it could have been omitted on purpose. In any case, the driving tells us the story that we need to know. My viewer's getting increasingly impatient. I think this sign with its back to us to the right showed the temporary reduced speed limit of 30. So now it's back to a 40 limit. However, there's some more 30 signs a little further up. There's still a queue of traffic in front of this Volkswagen, so no one can go anywhere quickly. My viewer continues to follow way too close. But this next little surge of speed is definitely an attempt at intimidation. My viewer's boiling over, and it's pretty obvious that the driver in front is onto their behaviour. They're slower into this mini roundabout and quicker out, which is the safest way to deal with a tailgater. But after the roundabout they turn a little bit antagonistic. This is a shame, because they've done everything well up to now. However, don't forget we've got no audio and we can't see whether my viewer's been gesturing. Now, are you ready for the dashcam save push? Watch the movement in the camera. So my viewer obviously knows that there's a problem, and they continue to drive in this manner. Although there's no one in front, the driver in front seems to stay a little below the speed limit, but I think this is the correct decision. You're being tailgated, and we've got the wet conditions. Dealing with the pressure of a tailgater is difficult, but try and try hard not to let it push you over the edge. It's a shame that the driver of the Volkswagen did this. My viewer did send this clip in asking for some honest feedback. The police were looking into this incident pretty obviously, but I've received no further update from my viewer. Both of these road users get an F. My viewer's actions were terrible, but please don't brake check anyone, however bad they are. A classic angle for an A-pillar problem, and this is exactly what goes on. This is lazy driving, and my viewer gets a D. The only saving grace is because it's so open both to the right and the left. My viewer didn't even see the Peugeot because they were target fixated at the red van. The driver of the Peugeot did an excellent job. You get an A. Another near miss with some emerging. This time my viewer's on the major road though. This clip comes from South Africa. Notice the big line of vehicles in front of the white Land Cruiser in front of my viewer. This plays an important part in the clip. The driver of the Land Cruiser leaves the junction clear. Nice work. How and when you move in situations like this are an important communication. My viewer and the Mercedes driver don't get it quite right together. There is a precursor to what's going to happen. There it is. And my viewer has to take their time so they know that the junction can be cleared. And this has caused confusion with the driver of the silver Mercedes. With the oncoming vehicles still flowing, I can understand why my viewer actually starts to move. But there's also an argument with the cars queuing in front of my viewer that it's probably not worth moving up. It's a difficult one this. My viewer just needed to be a little bit more positive. Going, stopping, and with their timing of horn use. They get a C. The Mercedes driver gets a D because they do not look back towards my viewer at all. My viewer should have also abandoned and stopped. No analysis needed for this one. My viewer just gets a face palm. Thanks for tuning in, keep safe, and I'll see you all soon.